Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Coleman, and I serve as the Director of Recruiting here at Roberts Wesleyan University for traditional undergrad admissions. And I've been in this role for about a year, and I'm here today with these amazing students, and we're going to share a little bit of our stories about how we came to higher education.
Yeah, so my name's Colette. I'm a senior undergraduate psychology and English major. I'm not from the area, so I'm actually from Burlington, New Jersey, which is right outside of Philadelphia. So about a 6-hour drive, so not really sure how I ended up here.
Hello everyone, my name is Juan Espinosa. I'm from Colombia. I'm accounting major and marketing, and I'm a student athlete for men's soccer.
Hi, my name's Emily. I'm a nursing major here, and slightly less exciting, I'm pretty local. I'm from Albion, which is out Buffalo way.
Oh, okay, that's great. Well, let's dive right into it. I want to ask you guys some questions today, and one of the first questions that came to my mind when I was thinking about our conversation was, I'm very curious. How did you know you wanted to attend college? Was it something that was like an aha moment that you thought, you know what, I want to go to college? Or do you think you grew up with this notion of, I'm going to go to college? It's not even a question. Share your story with us.
So for me, I actually didn't really want to go to college. I wanted to do like cosmetology or something else. Honestly, what happened is I did really well in high school, and my parents, neither of them got the opportunity to go to college. So they kind of sat me down and they were like, I think if you don't go to college, you'll regret it for a really long time. So they kind of offered to pay for like all of the housing and like non-tuition costs. And with my scholarship at Roberts, that wound up meaning that I didn't pay anything personally.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So kind of hard to say no to that.
Yeah. Now, did I hear you correctly in saying that your parents didn't go to college? So that would qualify you as a first gen?
Yep.
Okay. We might have to circle back to that. How about you, Juan?
Well, in my case, something a little bit different because since I was little, I was trying to follow that dream. I was a little child trying to be a soccer player.
Yeah.
So my main goal was just soccer. I want to be a soccer player, play in the big stadiums. But my father, my family, my mom also highlight I have to be have plan B because soccer is not forever. Right. So they point that a lot, and as a good son, I just follow what they say, and here I end up being here.
Okay.
Mine was a little more of I grew up with the idea of, okay, after high school, you'll go to college or you'll pursue some form of vocational studies. Right. My dad is actually a middle school, career tech teacher. Mm-hmm. So he had from me and all of my siblings, he had just been teaching us the importance of going to college is a choice for getting education on the career that you want. And for me, it was a really hard decision, but I started sitting down, and when I came to terms with the job that I wanted, I realized that to get that job, I needed the higher education, and so I pursued college applications after that.
Okay. So it's really cool, unique, different journeys to getting to the next step of choosing college. And so with that, Emily, I'm going to start with you, since you kind of knew this. You knew you had to pick a college. Talk to us a little bit about what do you think were the three factors you were, considering when you were choosing a college?
Yeah, there was. To pat it down, it's a lot of work because at first you're looking at just you can go anywhere in the world to any job that you want. When it came down to it, at the heart of it, the most important one for me was the people, the environment that the college creates. And that was just what I put on the top of my list. And then after it, for me, it was really important actually range from my home. At first, when I started looking at college, I was all like, oh, I want to go see the world. I'm going to go states and states away. But I started talking to my mom, and she was like, actually, I think you'd be happier if you were closer to home. Mm-hmm. So that was really important to me. Okay. And the third was affordability and the college's willingness to work with me on financials. And that was super important with me because I had a little bit of scholarship, but not a ton.
Yeah, no, those are great. So affordability, community, and distance is what it sounds like. And in thinking about those factors, how did you come to terms with knowing that the university or the college that you chose fit those factors? Did you visit? Did you what were the steps you took to determine the answer to those questions?
Yeah. So I was actually in that weird crew of people where like post-COVID is what I mean by that weird
Okay.
crew of people.
Okay. Yeah.
Some colleges that I applied to weren't even offering tours of their college at that point.
Wow.
So I wasn't even able to go to some of them, but I went to a lot of virtual tours and as many in-person tours as I could get to. Physically being on a campus is what really was important to me in regards to seeing the community and how people behave around one another.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that was really helpful was honestly navigating online resources and seeing, like, just by getting online and searching up the school, how able am I to access their resources, their tools online, and communicate with people at the institution.
Oh, wow, that's really great. That's really great information. Colette, I'm going to come back to you. So you were kind of a different situation. Your parents sat you down and you were thinking, okay, this is probably the next step for me. So you weren't really as sure of what you were looking for maybe when you chose. So what were the factors for you in deciding, what college you wanted to pursue?
So honestly, I sent out applications wherever Common App matched me. And then once I got my offers back, I was looking mostly at finances. I think Roberts was the only college that I applied that was more than 2 hours away.
Okay.
And when they made me an offer, it was what I was looking for financially. And I'm looking at this aid package and they're like, will you accept? And I'm like, I have never even set foot on this campus. I haven't seen a picture of it.
Oh, wow.
I had no clue what I was doing. So I wound up, coming and touring. And this actually happened after decision day because they updated my financial aid package like 2 days before decision day.
Oh, wow.
So at that point for me, it was, the choice between community college and here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I chose here, but I do kind of wish that I'd had a little bit more knowledge about what to look for.
Interesting.
There are a lot of ways that Roberts matches what I want, but I completely lucked out on that.
Yeah.
That was not intentional from me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's a couple things that I want to go back to as a first gen going to college. These are some of the hurdles that first gens, they face and don't even realize they're facing is you don't always know what to ask or you don't always know what to look for. And so it's really important to have, people in the process to help you probably on the institutional side to even help you figure out what, some of those questions might be. Did you find that in your journey of, getting to your university that you were supported in that kind of way?
I'd say a little bit. So this college specifically, actually, they were very involved with like calling me, checking up on my application status, whether I was actually going to attend, that kind of thing. A lot of other colleges weren't. And actually, the only reason that I got the financial aid package that I wound up getting was because a scholarship became available, and my admissions counselor knew me well enough to know that the reason that I rejected Roberts outright was I couldn't afford the finances. So they were kind of discussing who would accept the scholarship if they offered it. And she said, I have a student that really cares about financial aid package, and I think that she would probably accept it if you offered. So, and she was right, and that's why I got it.
Yeah, kudos to that recruiter.
Yeah.
That's really great. One more question for you, because I do think as high schoolers, you do wrestle a lot with, 2-year college versus a 4-year college. Can you remember going back to that time where you were really sitting down and looking at the main factors of why you chose a 4-year school over a 2-year school?
Yeah. So the finances were going to work out so that it cost a little bit more to come here. But I honestly felt like I felt like if I started out with 2 years and then transferred for 4 years, every time you have to make that change, make that switch, reapply, I feel like there's a loss of retention, right? And I feel like the people who get lost are the people who can't go to their parents and be like, you know what I'm doing, help me figure it out. And I knew that was me. And especially because with my major, I knew that I was going to need graduate school. So I didn't want to have to keep making that, this is a new institution, this is a new institution, because I felt like it would disadvantage me. And I think that instinct was correct, because the connections that I made here my first 2 years are the connections that helped me get a lot of my resume builders the next 2 years I was here.
That's such a great point. I don't think sometimes when you're in this process, you don't think about the transition, sometimes even culture shock, going from high school to college. There really is a culture shock because the expectation is different, the experience is different. And so, you're not really thinking about, if I started 2-year college, what is it going to, again, to go to a 4-year? And then, like you said, for your program, you would need graduate. So that's another one. So the fact that you were able to think through that, it's really great that you were able to process that. This is a great segue into Juan's experience, because Juan, not only did you come from it, you're an international student, as you stated, and you're an athlete. And so those are already 2 big different factors for a student when they're considering the college look and, being recruited. And then for coming, as an international student and culture shock. Talk a little bit about what the recruiting process was like for you.
Well, the recruiting process was long, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I started, sending emails.
Okay.
At least 2,000 emails, I sent to every single university. So I started sending emails, and then, everything started like this, and then like this, like this, like this.
Yeah.
So from those 2,000, at least 100 replied me back,
Okay.
saying, yes, no. And then 50 of those one were like, okay, I'm interested. Then 10 of those one were like, okay, let's go forward. Let's meet by Zoom and let's figure out something.
Right.
And then from those 10, I remember this number. 4 of those were like the ones that called my attention.
Okay.
Because I was looking for 3 things, like, be able to play soccer,
Yeah.
was the main thing. The second thing was like, okay, have a place in which is friendly, it's a community in which they accept and diversity.
Yeah.
And the third thing will be the academics, found a place in which I can have and I can gain that hands-on experience on classes.
Yeah.
So then I decided Roberts, I feel like it was one of the best decisions I have taken so far, because it's just helped me a lot to improve, just not like a person, also like on the field, off the field. So all those things, I feel like I just can't say thanks.
Yeah. So did you get the opportunity to visit Roberts before you came?
No, I just see Roberts through the YouTube, Instagram. Like it was like when I come here, I was impressed, because was like, oh wow, this is something like I never see in Colombia. This is something new,
Yeah.
and I was like, there's no way back. I'm here. I cannot give up.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting when I first come here, because I remember that Coach Scott, my head coach,
Yeah.
he picked me up at the airport, and then we were chatting the whole trip from the airport to the campus, and I was speaking in English, and I was like, okay, this is something new. I
Yeah.
have to take the ownership and start doing my future.
Wow. That is fascinating to me. How can I ask you, how old were you when you came here?
So I come here it was 2 years ago. So I come here with 19 years old.
And did you have any prior travel experience outside of your country?
Well, yeah. So before coming here to the US, I played soccer, professional soccer, in a first division team in Colombia
Okay.
for my whole life, most of my whole life. And I travel a lot. I go to Spain, Italy. So I was looking for a team that, have the same dynamic, the same, like intensity, like good players.
Mm-hmm.
And when coach just gave me the offer, I was like looking the roster, looking the videos, looking what the team do. I was like, this is the place.
Yeah. So Juan, if let's say there's a young man right now watching this video and they were in another country, what do you think, if you could tell that young man or even that young woman, what were the 3 most important things to you when you made this decision? What would it be? What would you tell them to look for, especially if they're coming, literally across the ocean?
Yeah, well, I would recommend to anyone, that wanna like pursue a degree and also play sports, like have three things in mind. The first one, take into account like you have to find a place in which you can develop as a person, then you can grow. Like go for the growth opportunities. I feel that's a huge thing that's gonna help you in your future. The second one, be able to play the sport you love. The third one, and the most important for me, will be found a place in which you feel you're gonna feel like home. In my case, I come here, and at the beginning, it was hard because it was different weather, it was everything different. But then the people around me makes me feel like I was back home. So I feel those three are the most important things I can recommend to someone.
Those are great. Thank you, Juan.
Yep.
All right, Emily, I'm going to come back to you for this next question. So you're a nursing major here at Roberts, right? So nursing schools, that's a pretty competitive field, first of all. And, locally, we actually have quite a few really good nursing programs. When you were considering what nursing program to choose, tell me specifically, some of the things that were really important to you regarding the nursing program.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think something that really stuck out to me is kind of goes back to that whole point with the recruiters are very fervent and they're very passionate about being in contact with you, answering your questions and reaching out consistently. So first and foremost, that really stuck out to me as I was like, all right, well, when I go in, I'm already going to have somebody there to lean back on and ask questions to. Yeah. But as I started to ask around, luckily I'm friends and family with some people who have gone to nursing programs in this area or are practicing nurses. And I kept getting this little whisper in my ear, and anyone who's ever heard of Roberts nursing program has heard it, and it's there's a difference about a Roberts nurse. Yeah. And when I started, I was like, okay, sure, I'm sure every college says that. But I had heard that at one of my shadows in high school, and somebody told me to ask colleges, like, what makes your nurses different? And that's a great question. When I was asking other colleges that, they were like, oh, well, we provide good academic, they gave me kind of cookie cutter answers. But Roberts was like, Roberts nurses are different because we emphasize making them different. And they focus on holistic care in my program, which is seeing a human as somebody who has emotional needs, physical needs, spiritual needs. And every part of what makes them is something that needs to be cared for when we're in practice as nurses. And just the fact that they were so open about that right from the front. Yeah. I knew I wanted to be a nurse because I cared about medical things, but I also care about people. Yeah. And when I was speaking to Roberts, they weren't just telling me about how good their program was, how high the education value is, which it is, but they were also telling me, like, you're going into a field where you're taking care of God's people every day, and that's important too. Yeah. And that's what really, really stuck out.
That's really amazing. I love that holistic approach of, we are human beings and there are many different sides of us, and to be able to have a curriculum or an academic experience that allows you to explore addressing all of those needs within the field that you're considering is really powerful. So I love that example. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go back to you, Colette. You're a psychology major, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about any kind of experience within the classroom for you that has stood out to you, and what do you think has really, because you're about to graduate, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about the academic journey here. What has stood out to you that you feel like has been really impactful to you with your academic experience here?
Yeah, so I feel like when I got here, I was like, I don't care about any of this college experience nonsense, right? I was like, I'm here to get my degree. I'm here to get out. That's not how it worked out.
Yeah.
I feel like what really stuck out to me was how supportive the professors were, but not just in terms of like, I want you to understand the material, I want you to get the good grade. It's like, I want you to be set up to go where you're going next. Like, I'm interested in higher education, so one of my professors got me an internship as a TA.
Oh, sweet.
Right. I was really not understanding what I needed to do to get my resume together to go for grad school. And one of my professors was like, okay, we're going to set up however many meetings. I'm going to help you look through all of these schools, give you examples of what your CV should look like, help you with one of your personal statements. And she didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
That wasn't like, oh, my advisor had to do that. That was just a professor who went out of her way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was able to say, hey, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here. Is there any advice you could give me?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of advice, I got support.
Yeah. Okay, Juan, I'm going to come back to you. You, did you know when you, so you, again, as an athlete, you know, soccer was kind of what opened the door for you to get here. Did you know right away what you wanted to pursue as far as a career? Were you pretty clear on that?
Yeah, well, so since high school, I was really good at math. Like
Okay.
I highlight math because I'm really analytical. So I was sure that I want to study something about finance. So then, when I looked about the syllabus about business and accounting, I was like, okay, accounting is like more like what I want. But then with the life situation that happened, it makes me get a second degree that was a second major that is marketing, because like accounting is like analytical stuff, but the marketing is like the creative part that I can
Yeah.
I can do. So yeah, I definitely with the time I found out like my real passion. So
Yeah.
it's really nice that.
So, okay, I want to dig a little deeper in here to that. So, how did you find out more about your passion? Was it something that you came to in yourself, or was there a situation that happened on campus, like you went and visited career services or did career development? How did you find out about your passions?
Well, with accounting, everything started in a class. I remember it was with Dan Barlow, great professor. And it was one of my first classes. It was 8 a.m., I remember. And then he just started asking persons each question. And then when in my turn, he asked me, and I had like no clue. But then my answer was right. So I was like, okay, what's going on here? So then with the time, I started getting like that passion to the business law, to tax, all those, the math things. And then nowadays, when I do the exam, the test, I just enjoy it,
Yeah.
It's like a big time for me to, to prove myself. And then with the time in marketing, I'm an outgoing guy. So like this also helped me a lot to have more connections.
Yeah.
So then one day I was just, working on the library, and I get an email from coach saying like there's an open spot to work in athletics social media with Kelly.
Okay.
I apply, get it, and then I have the interview with Kelly, and he liked it, and then we start working. And then with the time, I start feeling that I like to be with people. I like to connect with people. I like to, be a positive voice. And then plus that, I get with Colette a right position. So it's like, okay, this opportunity that is happening here shows what I can be able to do. So now that I'm here after 2 years, I just can feel like I'm grateful with all this journey so far, and it's pretty nice.
Yeah, your story is so fascinating to me, what you just shared, because you talked a little bit about you touched on, career, like you knew what you wanted to do, you knew you wanted a career, you wanted to make money. But in that journey in the classroom, you started to discover that you're passionate about some other things and that you're good at other things. And I find that students kind of wrestle sometimes with, okay, I need to have a career, I need to make money, but I'm passionate about this. And they tend to kind of like lean away from their passions because they're career focused. But it sounds like you've been able to kind of find that happy medium where you're tapping into your passions and you have found a way to immerse that with a career. And then you also talked about opportunity, like finding different opportunities of, working and interning in athletics, becoming an RA. You're talking about development that is happening and growth that's happening to you as a person. And so, I don't think that sometimes college students or high school students probably think about that. Like they're thinking, oh, I got to go get a degree. I'm going to go do this for, to get a career, to make money. And that conversation is not happening a lot, that college is so much more than a degree. It is about finding your passions. It is about, learning about yourself, self-awareness, growing as a person, developing and even learning and leading into leadership opportunities. So you have such a wonderful story, Juan. Thank you for sharing that. I want to turn a little bit about the campus life and the campus experience, because I think sometimes we get a little, when you're, again, as a high schooler, you're thinking, oh, okay, I do want to go to a place where I belong, but it is focused on getting a degree to have a career. But let's talk a little bit about campus life and belonging. And I mentioned a little bit earlier about, you talked to Nicolette. We'll come back to you actually about this, because you talked a little bit about this. You didn't want to transfer because you didn't want to have to keep, finding your way and fitting in. Talk about the transition of a high schooler to the college, life experience, and what that was like. Was there some culture shock for you there?
Oh my God, yes. So for me, I had to live on campus. So that's a big one right off the bat, right? Like you think, oh, maybe I've been at sleepaway camps. I've spent the week without my parents. It is a whole different ball game. And then just like even the way that classes are structured in college is so different than in high school. I remember looking at my schedule my freshman year, and of course they make your schedule for you your first semester. And I was like, man, I don't have classes till 10 a.m. That's so late. I'm going to sleep in. Look at all these gaps of time in my day. I'm going to be the most relaxed person ever. I was at 18 credits. I was not the most relaxed person ever.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And then there's also so much freedom that happens. I mean, even if you are the kind of person whose parents check in on you all the time, it's not like in high school where, I don't know if anyone else had this experience, where your school would email your report card every quarter to your parents, and your mom would immediately text you and be like, hey, I noticed that you weren't turning in some homeworks.
Yes, that's right. I do that now to my high schoolers.
I think most parents do. But there's so much freedom for what to do. And there's so many options. But everything is so self-motivated. It's not like teachers are pulling you aside like in high school and being like, hey, come join our club. You seem interested in this. You don't have guidance counselors sitting you down and being like, what electives would you be interested in? If you wanted to just take all electives that are in what your major is, you actually could do that and not get, I mean, with a liberal arts college, there are some requirements. Like you have to take a music course, an arts course, whatever, but there's a lot of just like general elective credits that you have to take. And I've known people who will not go outside their major. I've known psych majors who will only take psych or sociology courses. But then I know people who added a second major because, it made sense with the amount of electives that they had to take. Or people who have 3 minors. Or people who don't have any of that. They take a gender course because it looks interesting, a ceramics course because it sounds fun. Right. There's just so many different ways to choose to be. And no one really sits you down and tells you, like, you have to start thinking about, do you want to go this route or this route? Right. What do you think is going to enrich you the best?
Yeah. And did you have, first of all, it's funny because I don't think I knew when you go to college that you can major in something and minor in something else. I didn't know that was an option. But in that process for you, who does help you kind of decide that? Like when you are looking at your classes and stuff like that, what is that process like for a student in college?
Well, I think the most important thing is be proactive about getting answers to your questions. You don't have to know even all the questions to ask or the answers to all of the questions, but if you ask a question and there's not like a concerted effort to answer that question, and that's when you're looking at colleges, that's when you go to college, like at any point, that's something to be concerned about. I really think that if you start getting curious and asking questions, you will find the answers. But if no one's interested in giving you those answers, that's a red flag for a college. For me, I think it depends on whether you have like a major in mind. If you're undecided, they'll give you an advisor who's like a general ed person. I think that's generally a good resource. But at that point, if you don't know where you're going there, you might want to go to the Career Center because, at least in terms of academics, your professors are going to be very knowledgeable in their area,
Right.
but not in other areas.
Right.
So if you're interested in getting a minor or something like that, I would not necessarily go to your academic advisor who's maybe really, really skilled in what classes to take in psych and what internship to get in psych and all of that. But if you want, like, I don't know, if you want to decide that you're going to learn a second language and you're trying to pick between American Sign Language or Spanish, and you want to figure out which is going to be more useful in the area that you live in, or which is going to be easier for you to continue, which is going to be easier for you to fit into your schedule, the people to talk to are actually the professors of those.
That's good. That's a good point. You're talking about, not just your professor as a resource, but you also mentioned the career services and career development office as a resource, but even other professors and going outside of, your comfort zone a little bit to, figure out where to get those questions answered. And I think that's a phenomenal point you bring up. I meet with prospective students all the time, and I tell them the most powerful tool in your toolkit right now is going to be your ability to ask a question. That is how you're going to succeed. You have to know how to ask questions, and people at a good university will have people there to help you find the answers if they don't know it. So I think that's a great point. Emily, I want to come to you because I always have students that come to me and they're saying they're interested in the nursing program, and I'm always letting them know right up from the jump. I'm like, this is a gauntlet of a program. Like, it requires a lot. You might have to make some sacrifices now to be able to achieve, the dream career that you want later. But I'm curious of your experience. How were you able to find community with taking such a heavy dose of, I would say heavy dose. Heavy dose.
That's good.
Heavy dose of a program in nursing.
That's, I think, really good to hear. Nursing is a beast.
Yeah.
I did not get that from like schools and stuff. My family, my aunt was a nurse,
Yeah.
and she like sat down with me and she was like, "Listen, I like my job. I love nursing. You're sure you want to do this because it's going to be hard."
Right.
And that really scared the bejeebies out of me. I was like, I think I can. I really want to do it.
Right.
And to that regards, I would say that I'm actually very proud graduating this year that I've been able to find community in nursing, but also outside of it.
Yeah.
I would say that it's a beast of a program, but if you prioritize wanting to be involved in other things, you absolutely can. Like, I went through the honors program. I'm in SALT, which is our association student team here. I work for the nursing club. I work for the School of Nursing, and I work in the library, which allowed me, by finding other opportunities on campus, that's allowed me to expand the people that I'm around on campus. Like, I may have never met Juan because of my program, but we work together at the library, actually. But when it comes to finding community in a program that is as rigorous as nursing, and they do this so easily for you over there, you have to find that community in nursing. When I struggle from a bad case of FOMO. So when I came in freshman year, I wanted to be a little part of everything.
Yeah.
And I was dipped everywhere, which meant I wasn't finding, like, this is my community right here of my people that are going to, like, I know these are my main circle and I can come to them. And I was a little stretched thin. And I think everyone has to make that mistake at one point in their life. Everyone is going to get overstretched themselves. But as my major progressed on, specifically your junior and senior year of nursing major, you are in one classroom here. It's 166 in Smith. And right now I'm in 2 classes, Tuesdays, Thursdays, for 6 hours straight. And so you're going to see those people, and it'll be very easy to make community with them because you're spending so much time with them. But I would say that the most important piece of advice is that if you emphasize community, you'll be able to find it.
That's really great. One, I cannot pass up the opportunity to talk with you regarding belonging and being an international student. We talk about culture shock, like just in general, from high school to college. it's already one thing to have a different expectation for learning and even responsibility as a student. Like you said, Colette, earlier, your professors are not emailing grades, to your parents. Like you really are stepping into a different responsibility when you become a college student. So you have that going on. But now here you are coming from a different country. And, talk a little bit about that, how that was for you, and what were some of the challenges you faced as an international student? And listening to your story, you clearly have found your way. Tell us how you found your way.
Yeah, so I remember before I come here to Roberts, the last conversation I had with my parents were like, Juan, we're gonna miss you, but go there and make those 4 years the best of your life and try to get your future. So with that, I just come here with the mentality that I have to do those 4 years the best of my life. So unfortunately, when I come, it was Jay Newman at the time, and I remember that he literally I never met him before, and he just gave me a pillow and a blanket. So like I was like, oh, look, like people is taking care of internationals.
Yeah.
And then when I meet all the internationals, it's just such a great experience because all of those have different backgrounds, so you can learn. You can be like a sponge. You can get from everyone. And then with the soccer team, I come here with the soccer. The soccer opened me the door, and then I made the friends, my teammates. But then I was decided to make friends as much as I can, to say hi to everyone. Because at the end of the day, I want to have these 4 years as the best of my life. Then also I have the opportunity to meet amazing people that connect me with other people, and I just found an internship this summer with the Rochester Red Wings, the baseball team, and it was something that happened because Kelly, the one of athletics, he recommended me there because I'm working with him. So just doing things with good faith, doing the things as you are supposed to do, open a lot of doors. So I'm really happy with that.
That's really awesome. All right, so we're coming to a close right now, and I think what I would love to hear from you, what is some final advice you would give a high school student that is on this journey where you were a couple years ago of, thinking about college, thinking about making the decision, thinking about pressures of being a college student. What would be advice you would give to them? We'll start with you, Colette.
So the advice that I would say is in high school and, like other experiences you've probably already had, things are designed to get you through, right? And that's not necessarily the way that colleges function. It's designed to give you something, but a lot of people go and they're not going for a degree. And, there's a lot of ways to get a degree. Some are helpful, some are not so helpful. And even in terms of getting accepted to colleges, it's not a guarantee that you're going to wind up at college at all. So you have to really be proactive about, these are my allies, these are the people that I know that I'm going to when I need help, when I need answers to a question. If you're looking at colleges, make sure you know your admissions recruiters. Know your admissions person. Yeah. If you don't know your admissions counselor by name, I think that's a red flag.
Yeah.
They're not reaching out to you enough. You guys aren't communicating enough. If you're seriously considering, there's a difference between I'm throwing out an application versus I'm seriously considering. But if you're seriously considering a college and you don't know the admissions counselor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm hearing you say it's important as a student to know your web of care and know your admissions counselor, who's going to be your people and support when you get there. That's great advice. Thank you. How about you, Juan?
Well, my best advice would be try to find a place in which you have growth opportunities and also in which you're going to feel special and you're not going to be just a number. In which you're going to feel valuable versus valuable.
Valuable.
I just always forget that. Yeah.
We got you.
You're going to feel special, in which you're going to feel like you are a person that campus appreciate you.
Yeah.
That's going to be my best advice for any single person that is watching this video.
Mine would definitely have to be your life is not a to-do list and you have
good.
all the time to do what you need to do. There's these pressures to make these deadline decisions, to make the right choice and go to the school for the name. And I mean, I know I've kind of hounded on that. There's a lot of pressures.
Yeah.
And everyone's timeline looks different. It can be 4 years. It can be 2 years.
That's right.
You can take a gap year. You can go right in. It's not a to-do list. There's not a defined checkbox, and sit on what is going to satisfy your future goals, as well as what gives you the most exciting life. And take chances. Like 20s is for your late teens, and early 20s is for taking chances.
That's right. Man, I wish I got to hear you guys when I was making this decision. You gave some really great advice. Thank you all for being here today, and see you next week.